What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, I'm glad you're back because, you know, this news article right here gives me a chance to get out in front of a Democratic talking point, as a matter of fact. Check this out, y'all. Trump administration slashed federal funding for gun violence prevention. Gun violence prevention. Oh, lovely. So this is going to be a talking point here in a month, maybe 2 months, 6 months. Any Democratic politician getting out on the campaign trail is going to use this against Donald Trump and Republicans, as a matter of fact. And it's all nonsense. Don't let these liars fool you, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to tell you Donald Trump doesn't care if children get hurt, doesn't care about gun violence, doesn't care about inner city violence, none of these things. They'll probably even claim, oh, Donald Trump is trying to defund the police and all this other nonsense. You know how Democrats do. They manipulate just about everything. But we're going to go over this and break it all down logically, as we do around here. Check this out, y'all. The Trump administration has terminated more than half of all federal funding for gun violence prevention programs in the U.S., cutting $158 million in grants that have been directed to groups in cities like New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and Baltimore. Of the 145 community violence intervention grants, totaling more than $300 million awarded through the U.S. Department of Justice, 69 grants were abruptly terminated in April, according to government data analyzed by Reuters. The elimination of CVI programs is part of a broader rollback at the department's grant-issuing Office of Justice programs, which terminated 365 grants valued at $811 million in April, impacting a range of public safety and victim services programs. A DOJ official told Reuters the gun violence grants were eliminated because they no longer effectuate the program's goals or agency's priorities. Thousands of Office of Justice programs grants are under review, the official said, and are being evaluated, among other things, on how well they support law enforcement and combat violent crime. Now, like I said, folks, Democrats are going to try to use this as a bludgeon to bludgeon Republicans over the head with. But this is what I have to say to you. Okay. Now, I got some statistics in this thing, so we'll get into that. I love statistics, by the way. But like the government said, how well do these programs work? Has gun violence gone down? No, it hasn't. As a matter of fact, it's on an uptick right now. But that's to be expected. Donald Trump is in office. It's going to be on an uptick when Donald Trump is in office. But let's look back traditionally over these things. How well do these programs work? And what the question you must ask yourself, are they worth the money? $811 million. What do these programs actually do? A lot of these programs, they go to fund, right? People have to work to do whatever the hell it is that they do. So this has to go to pay people. Can we afford this type of thing? Right? That's another question. Do they work? No, they don't seem to be working. Because since the implementation of these, gun violence has only gone up and up and up and up. Right? It's like the homelessness problem. You start dumping money into the homelessness problem, and homelessness rises. It's like you can't just throw money at a problem and think it's going to fix it. And currently, we're spending $1.8 trillion more than what we take in revenue. Donald Trump needs to find areas where we can cut funding. Giving out grants to NGOs, for crying out loud, is a piss poor way to try to save money. I don't think NGOs work on behalf of the American taxpayer, right? These NGOs, they have overhead they have to pay. And a lot of these NGOs are almost totally funded by the federal government. So, no, look, I'm sorry. These programs, they don't work, so we don't need them. We're going to cut them out. And I also imagine they're going through and trying to find fraud, waste, fraud, and abuse, as a matter of fact, because a lot of the government grants get abused, folks. Look, there's statistics out there that show upwards of $500 billion in federal grant money is abused annually. Yes, annually. That's a massive load of money. It's just nuts. It really, really is. The majority of CVI grants were originally funded through the 2022 Bipartisan Safer Communities Act and part of a push by former President Joe Biden to stem the rise of gun violence in America, including establishing the first White House office for gun violence prevention. That office was dismantled on day one of Trump taking office, said former Deputy Director of the office, Greg Jackson. Prior to the Biden-era funding, most gun violence prevention programs were funded on the state level. These programs 5 years ago, if they did exist, had very small budgets and didn't have large multi-million-dollar federal investments, said Michael Sean Spence, Managing Director of Community Safety Initiatives at Everytown for Gun Safety, which has worked with 136 community-based violence intervention organizations since 2019. 25 of the groups were impacted by the funding cuts. The grants supported a wide range of CVI programming to prevent shootings, such as training outreach teams to de-escalate and mediate conflict, social workers to connect people to services and employment, and hospital-based programs for gun violence victims. It's preventing them from doing the work in service of those that need it the most at the most urgent and deadliest time of the year, Spence said, referring to the summer months when there's typically an uptick in shootings. Gun violence deaths in the U.S. grew more than 50% from 2015 to the pandemic-era peak of 21,383 in 2021, according to the Gun Violence Archive. Since then, deadly shootings have been in decline, falling to 16,725 in 2024, which is more in line with the pre-pandemic trend. As of May 2025, deaths are down to 866 from the same period last year. So what that says, and I imagine the Huffington Post threw that in there to tell you, look, these programs are working. But no, that's not indicative of the programs working, because I'm sorry, most gun violence is committed by criminals. Do you think criminals are going to go to some gun violence prevention intervention or something like that to get help? No, I'm sorry. Look, the thing that would really curb gun violence, to be honest with you, you would think this is kind of antithetical to that, but give everybody a gun. Seriously. The statistics they don't tell you about is there are 3 million a year. Roughly 3 million. It fluctuates, obviously, but roughly, on average, 3 million year self-defense uses of a gun every single year. And wrapped up in that data is also, and we don't get good numbers on this because a lot of times it goes unreported, of crime prevention by a good citizen with a gun. No lie, folks. Like, some of that data adds some of that into there because they all just kind of correlate all that together. But if more and more people had a gun, look, get this, 99.99999% of all mass shootings are stopped by a person with a gun. Absolutely. Whether it's a good citizen, a cop, or the shooter himself, all of them are stopped by a man with a gun or a person with a gun. Abso-freaking-lutely. And get this statistic, folks. 94% of all mass shootings are committed inside of gun-free zones. Like, we just had this shooting up in New York. You know, that could have been prevented if somebody in the lobby of that building would have had a gun and would have shot back at the active shooter. People with guns can prevent crime. Absolutely. This is another thing. Like burglaries, home breaking, home invasions would plummet. They would fall off a cliff if these criminals knew that the house that they're about to go into might have a gun. You go to blue states where, you can't have guns very much. They don't want you having guns. Like, pretty much New York City itself is a gun-free zone. They've outlawed guns for the most part. Now, the Supreme Court says otherwise, but for the most part, a lot of people, they don't have guns. Criminals know this. Criminals don't care about laws. As a matter of fact, they absolutely don't. You get this crime prevention nonsense, it just doesn't work, folks. There's no outreach program that would stop somebody who's in a desperate situation or whatever it may be, or just a criminal being a criminal, right, that's going to go rob a store. There's nothing about any of this grant funding. None of that would prevent these crimes. None of that. But you know what could prevent those crimes? That person at the liquor store or whatever's getting robbed, if they had a gun and shot back, absolutely, that would stop a crime from being committed. We need more weapons on the streets, folks, not less. This is absolutely nuts. This is absolutely true. All right, there's so many self-defense uses of a gun every year, but the left, they never give you those statistics because they know it's damaging to their narrative. Every time there's a mass shooting, they want to yell, "Oh, we need to curb gun violence," and blah blah blah. We need to take guns. We need more gun restrictions. We need more red flag laws. You know, folks, red flag laws are unconstitutional. You cannot put the gun rights, the Second Amendment rights of an individual, secondary to due process. That just doesn't work, folks. These red flag laws are very unconstitutional because what they do, they go and take the gun away. So they assume guilt first. And then you go through the due process to get your rights back. No, I'm sorry, that's not how the Constitution was writ. If there is any kind of question about anybody's mental instability, you go through that due process first, then have the gun removed. You don't do it the other way around. That's why they don't work. Folks, and like background checks, hey, look, those are so extensive, they'll make your freaking head swim. As a matter of fact, there's questions on the background check that are absolutely unconstitutional. Like they ask you if you're on any kind of drugs. Well, if you say yes, they won't give you a gun. But if you lie and say no, and then they find out about that, you just incriminated yourself, violating your Fifth Amendment rights. So, background checks are absolutely unconstitutional, or at least a couple of the questions on the background check are unconstitutional. We could go through this all day, but I love this, folks. Are these programs effectual? Do they even work? And can we afford them? That's the question you must ask yourself anytime you hear these Democrats yelling and screaming, gnashing their teeth about funding cuts. Oh, they're cutting this or they're cutting that. Well, what exactly are they cutting? Does it work? And can we afford to do this? Because clearly, we're in a budget crisis right now, y'all. We absolutely are in a budget crisis, and we need to make cuts. It's got to come from somewhere. But Democrats, they just want to deficit spend our way into oblivion. Right on up to bankruptcy doors, or to the bankruptcy shores, if you will, and just plant their flag. That's what they would have us do. Nah, I'm sorry. Donald Trump says no, we're not going to do that. And I think it's a good idea, but I think I've rambled on for long enough. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. My voice is kind of starting to go out, or at least it feels like it is. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but it feels like it's going out. So y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and all over the place all at the same time, if you could. And if you would, click that join button, sign up, and become a member. Help this channel expand and prosper, y'all. I need y'all's help on that tremendously. Y'all do all that for me, and y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.